All right, good evening. We're going to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission Local Planning Agency of August 30th of 2022. We're going to do the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Everybody please stand. Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord God. Thank you for this fellowship, Lord, that we're here together. Help us do the work of the city, Lord. Help our first responders, Lord, and everybody else doing your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we need roll call, please.
Chair Lumnick,
Here.
Vice Chair Kennedy,
Here.
Member Mellon,
Here.
Member Williams, here. Member Forges,
Here.
alternate Member Keller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July 12th?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of July 12th from Member Mellon and a second by Member Kennedy, by Vice Chair Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That's fine.
We'll just leave it on.
That'll work. We'll do the buttons on the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. No old business. We're going to go straight into new business. This is a variance request for 1909 Leslie Ann Lane, VR 2055. It's going to be Zone Manager Whitfield.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. So the first item before the board this evening is the variance request for 1909 Leslie Ann Lane to reduce vehicle use area setbacks. So the request is to reduce the minimum driveway vehicular use area setback from 2 feet to 1 foot to allow for the expansion of a driveway and a masonry retaining wall to be located 1 foot from the property line. The property location is here along the east side of Leslie Ann Lane. It's about 0.17 acres in size. The zoning is R1. This property had an easement vacation public hearing back in June with a conditional approval that I'll go into in the subsequent slides. This is the aerial from 2021 showing the property. The surrounding zoning is all R1. The variance request for all variances it follows section 4-9. Essentially, there are 4 criteria. The first criteria is that there are special conditions and circumstances that exist that are peculiar and specific to that property or that structure. The second criteria is that the literal interpretation of the provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicants of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties, and that the conditions of the variance are not the result of actions by the applicant. The last one is that the granting of the variance will not confer any special privileges to the applicant. This slide shows the requested site survey that the applicant wants to do. They're asking for an 18 width or to keep their 18 width expansion. The driveway currently encroaches into the utility easement. As mentioned, there was a June 7th public hearing to vacate the easement, and the City Commission at that time had voted to give a conditional approval, with the condition being that in order for the easement vacation to happen, this variance would also have to be approved by this body and the City Commission at the next hearing. So when this improvement came in, this is a survey that was ultimately approved by the building through the building permitting process. What staff approved was a 15-foot wide expansion. As you'll see that if I can find my mouse, the yellow highlighted area shows the paver area, which at the time of the building permit did not include the wall. That improvement being outside of the 5-foot easement. Excuse me. So this is an after photo. In conversations with the paver company, they had failed inspection because the paver was extending into the easement and was not compliant with the permit that was issued. She had explained that there was additional pavers left over from the paver project and asked if the homeowners wanted to extend and use up the rest of the pavers that was purchased for this project. At the time, they also installed underneath drainage system under the pavers, which was not permitted. Based on a conversation with the paver company, they're now discharging to the property in the rear. The code doesn't allow for discharge off-site, so that's also an issue. The construction of the masonry wall here that you see at its highest point is about 14 inches. Here, at its lowest point in relation to the grade of the adjacent property is about 8 inches. As you can see here, they've installed an inlet, and the slope of the pavers tend to direct water downwards below what the original grade was on this site. So I wanted to share some before photos. This is taken from the 2019 Street View on the property appraiser's website. As you can see, this is the property. The lot is relatively flat. The grade change occurs here, generally at the property line. This bottom picture shows where the easement line generally is and where the permit was issued. So as you can see here, the slope was not that severe. What was installed has the paver and the wall system all the way to here where the slope starts to climb upwards. So this is a general location of the wall. The property line, I believe, is on the other side of this electrical box. This is a an image from, is a time and date stamped image from the Orange County Property Appraiser's website showing the work completed. And based on the tools available on the appraiser's website, I tried to identify a 3-foot space that could have accommodated the driveway widening. So there's room on the property where they could have widened northward, which is to the left side of the driveway by 3 feet without impacting the front door. This is some site photos that was taken where you see in the lower right-hand picture, this vehicle is parked approximately 2 or 3 feet from the wall. And on the other side of it, there's ample room for a parking space, but they're still parking on grass. So the initial paver permit was to create more parking area, but this image shows that parking is still occurring on the grass, not in the paver area that was installed. So based on everything that we looked at, staff finds that there are no special conditions or circumstances because the additional 3-foot, the desired 17-foot wide driveway could have been accommodated on the north side of the existing driveway. That the literal interpretation of the code would not deprive this applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by others, that the granting of this variance would confer special privileges that are denied by others by these regulations, and the circumstances of this variance was the result of actions by the applicant. So if the pavers had remained at the 5-foot easement line and the property not been graded 3 feet further into the area of the property that has the greater slope, the severity of the grade change would not have been as severe as it is. And had the paver company or applicants worked with staff through a permitting, we could have helped them with our technical engineers develop a drainage system to resolve any drainage issues on site, ensuring that there's no off-site discharge. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission deny the variance request and not allow the encroachment of the vehicular use area and the wall within 1 foot of the property line. I will note that if the recommendation is for a denial, they would have to remove the wall and move the pavers, do a saw cut and move the pavers back to where it was originally permitted at the easement line. And they could work with staff to work out the drainage issues. If the recommendation is for approval, the applicants would still have to permit the wall and permit the drainage system so that we're still not continuing to discharge off-site. And that concludes my presentation. And I believe the applicants are here sitting in the back if they want to present or have questions.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff? All right, is the applicant present? You want to come up and say something? All right. Come on down, and if you'll fill out a form for me when you're done. You're good. Get in that mic right there.
Yeah.
Right here.
Do it afterwards.
Okay.
You're good. State your name and address if you would.
I'm Brian Arthur, 1909 Leslie Ann Lane.
Thank you.
The reference to the applicant as if we had done something isn't accurate. We hired some people that claimed to have been really tight with the city of Ocoee, done a lot of work with y'all, so on and so forth, and then we get into a situation to where what was planned then became, I think we need to go this way. So the whole time, we're being assured that they work with you guys all the time. They're from Ocoee, live in Ocoee, and they know what they're doing. As in the part about the car sitting on the grass. I recently just bought me a brand new Toyota Avalon and needed to get her car that parks right to where she can get out and walk on the entrance to the house. I needed to get my car out to go take it for a ride. Her car does not park on the grass. I have spent a lot of money getting that grass the way that it looks in the last 4 years. It was nothing but weeds. So that is not what is occurring. We are not about parking on our grass. We are trying to make our yard with the rest of everything else we've done look magnificent. So we are not parking on our grass. I pulled it over there to get my car out, take it for a little ride, and then get it back in the garage, and then get her car back in.
That's okay. I don't think we're worried about the car in the grass
But
part.
as in the paver situation, we didn't ask for this to turn out this way. That's not what we thought we were getting in the beginning. Once they got to work and started looking at slopes and angles and stuff, they started going, well, this is what we're thinking now. And I was like, hey, you guys are the guys, you work with them, so on and so forth. So me and Dorothy, we didn't do anything trying to be bad guys or anything against rules or anything. We put our trust into these people. And now we haven't heard from them in a while. And so they didn't come to the last meeting, and they're not here. So we're very concerned. We felt very good after the last meeting that the city said, yeah, we're good with it. As long as the zoning and planning we're good. So I don't know what else I can say, but
Okay.
we just got stuck in a pickle.
Yes, sir. Okay. Is there any members that have any questions for the applicant?
Yes,
Okay.
Chairman, if I may. How did you find this company? Did you do due diligence to check on
I
their
think we just did
license, et cetera?
Google search on a phone, Ocoee paver companies, I think that's what I did, actually. And they came up, and then when they came out, and that was one of the first things that they were expressing, that, yeah, we're from Ocoee, we live in Ocoee, we work with them all the time, and they won us over right there. We wanted to stay local, we just became local, so we wanted to kind of give our business local, and so and we felt good because we knew that they would have to deal with the local zoning and stuff like that, so we thought that was a good decision.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
And-
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
With the wall and the drainage, my only question is there any problem with the neighbor now with
They love the wall.
rundown?
They love the wall. I mean, it makes them look good too. It's strictly just to hold back the grade. There used to be a tree where the planter box is on their property, a big old oak tree. So it was kind of raising up and stuff like that. And we were getting water drainage during our rainy season going into the garage. So that's what prompted the whole idea. So then we started running it through our brain and said, well, let's see what we can do with pavers. Concrete wasn't a good idea. Didn't want permanent concrete all the way over there. So the drainage ability of pavers and the removability of pavers seemed to be the right way to go. And then we called them out and they tell us all the right things. And here we are again today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a question for staff.
Sure.
I think you mentioned if we were to approve it, he'd still have to go back and get the company to do the permitting all over again, correct?
Yes, sir, because the drainage and the walls weren't
Okay.
permitted.
Cool. All right. I'm going to open up to the public. Does anybody in the public have any comments they'd like to make? All right. We're going to close the public, bring it up to the dais. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff before we move forward?
I do have some questions. I'm sorry, for the applicant. I had to go back and read this again. the contractor submitted a permit request that was rejected because they were going to construct on the easement. And then, correct?
That's correct.
And then a revision was made to move the driveway the other way. But at the end of the day,
There was.
it was constructed the way it was rejected to begin with.
The idea of what that 3-foot area that was shown up here where it could have been was never a discussion ever made with us and the paver company.
Okay.
We wouldn't want that because that kind of puts you in front of that nice big window. So we wouldn't want that view of a vehicle in that window. So it wasn't like we turned that idea down or said, no, we don't want that, we're gonna go that way. It was never an idea, and if it would have been an idea, I would have said, no, we don't wanna be parked right outside our window. So it comes back to where they're the professionals. We call them out. They got this vehicle with all their nice stuff on it and everything. They didn't look shabby in any way. They looked totally professional and came out, said all the right things, that they're from Ocoee and they work with you guys all the time. We
Okay,
know
but-
what we're doing, but
Okay,
it
this
turns out
is-
to where they,
Okay, again, the question is, when it was denied, were you aware of the denial? When the first
Well,
application was denied, were you aware of the
there was no
denial?
denial.
Tip-
There hasn't been a
It was
denial.
rejected.
So
No, nothing's been rejected ever.
the permit, when it came in, it got rejected several times, and I did
Correct.
have several conversations explaining to Aretha, I don't remember her last name, the pavers one, the paver
We
company,
never,
explaining to them the reason for the denial and that it needed to stay out. After several iterations, they revised the survey to look like this, and that's when staff approved it.
Okay.
Which that right there doesn't include a wall, right? That still has a 5-foot easement between
Yes.
where the current wall is now and where it was projected to be,
Yes, sir.
right?
What's on the screen is just a paver, no wall outside of the
so
easement.
all that interaction was strictly the paver company and the city. We weren't present. We, like I said, we really thought these guys were good with you all and knew what they were doing in Ocoee and knew your guys' processes, because that's
Can I ask a
basically how it
process
sounded.
question real quick? So when we go through these things with a permit applicant, right, and it's a contractor, and we reject something like this, is there an onus to say, hey, you need to make sure the owner or the land people are reviewing this and sign off on it?
So typically, when a permit comes in and it's a contractor, not an owner builder, all the comments, all the correspondences and permits get issued to the applicant, which is the contractor.
Right.
In the conversations, as we were reviewing it and issuing the rejection, we did explain it to her, and she did say that she would talk with her clients.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, we need to wrap this up. So does anybody else have any other last questions? All right. Well, I'm just going to say my opinion about this, right? It's either one thing, either way, there's going to need some fixing that's going to be done on this. Staff is recommending to deny this, so, I mean, either way, work needs to be redone on this thing because it's not right. So I will leave it up to somebody on the board to make a motion either way. I need one motion which way or the other.
Help us out.
I'll make a motion to deny the variance request.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
You're recommending to deny the,
Yes.
Thank you.
Recommend to deny the variance request.
we have a motion to recommend to deny the variance request and a second as well. So are there any other questions before we vote? I'm going to ask everybody to hit their yes or no on the panel over here. All votes are in, and it is carried 3-2 as a denial. So, on to the next. Now, that's a tough one.
Testing,
We have to touch it again.
testing,
She
yes,
said-
that's better.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So the next one we have, I threw the wrong paper away. Okay. So our next item up, is going to be for variance request for 606 Center Street. It's going to be VR 2206, zoning manager Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the request is to reduce the minimum front setback for a building setback from 25 feet to 6 feet in order to allow the installation of a prefabricated carport 6 feet from the south property line, which is the property's main entry. This is the location. It's in the northwest corner of Cardinal and Center Street. It's about 1/3 acre in size, R1A zoning. It is a corner lot, so it has frontage along the south on Center Street and on the east on Cardinal. This is an aerial of the property, surrounded by generally residential districts. As before, the criteria for variances is that there are unique circumstances that interpreting the code literally would cause a hardship, that the conditions aren't the result of the applicants, and that granting the variance doesn't confer any special privileges to this applicant. This is a survey of the property. Unfortunately, this survey is not dated, but I tried to scale it and show in the yellow highlight the general location of where the applicant wants to install the carport. The reason why I say that the survey is not dated and it's unfortunate because in this survey you don't see any other improvements, but based on the 2022 aerial, there are quite a few improvements that the survey should have captured. This structure here is a carport that was permitted in 2017, I believe. It's for a carport. This driveway area here was permitted as well. What wasn't permitted is this roof area here, and then all of this, what looks like impervious area. And then in this street image, I tried to show generally where the carport would go. Based on using the Orange County Property Appraiser's website, I try to estimate the amount of impervious that's on this site based on how it exists today, and it exceeds the total allowed ISA. I believe the number was close to 6 or 8%. So based on that, staff finds that there are no special circumstances or conditions. The literal interpretation would not deprive the applicant of the ability to have a garage or carport since there is one and there's ample parking. And there is space here where they could install the carport and a covered walkway to get to the home without necessarily putting the carport way here on the south, 6 feet from the property line. That the granting of the variance would confer special privileges to this applicant, and the circumstances would be the result of the applicant wanting to have a second carport. So with that, staff is also recommending denial for this variance request to not allow a reduction from 25 feet to 6 feet in order to not allow a carport, 20 by 24 foot carport, 6 feet from the south property line.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for staff? All
I
right.
don't know if the applicant's here. He said he would be here.
Is the applicant present?
Oh,
Come
there he is
on
in the
up,
back.
sir. You're the next contestant. Did that gentleman fill out his form while he's up there? Did you see that or no?
No, sir, he didn't
All
finish
right.
it.
Do we need applicants to fill out a form, Kathy? Perfect. Was that gentleman is he the applicant of the planning and zoning action, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way the application was submitted, the property owners signed it, but the justification part was provided by the contract company.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, sir.
Hey,
State your name and address if you would.
my name is Jose Romero. I live in 606 Center Street, Ocoee, Florida.
Cool. You have anything you want to tell us?
Well, I'm trying to make this carport. I've been collecting parts. My son works at the company doing it. He actually come on with the idea, and I've been collecting parts that sometimes he bring in for leftover from the jobs, and so we got I think we got it made it, and trying to apply the permit. And they told me that the space is kind of like short between the house and the street. So I'm here to see if we can get
Great.
this.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Please.
Sir, could you tell me how long you've lived there?
Almost 4 years.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Since you've lived there 4 years, did you do the improvements to the property, the additional carport and the other paved area? Was that all installed in the 4 years that you've lived there, or was that there before you?
Some of it was before. I did one carport in the back, like a small porch, like you say, like my shop. And the front, I did some pavers because it was like sand, and when I back up the truck, I do landscaping by the way, so I got a truck and trailer. I work for landscaping also from Ground Tech right here in Ocoee. And I was backing up and I got stuck, so I had to do like a little bit of pavers, the way I don't have to park it in the sand. It was more the sand. Now it's a little bit of grass, but that was in the time.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Is there anybody here from the public that would like to make a comment on this? All right, we're going to close the public hearing and come back to the dais. Thank you very much, sir. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff? All right, I need a motion for recommendation either way, please.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we support staff recommendation of denial of the requested variance to reduce the minimum front building setback for this variance at 606, request at 606 Center Street, number VR 22-06.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the recommendation. Do we have a second?
Motion to
I'm
deny.
sorry, a motion to deny
To
the
deny the
recommendation,
app.
excuse me. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a second. So we have a motion to deny by Member Williams and a second by Member Forges. All those in favor? All right, that is 5-0 on the denial. Thank you. Okay, sorry.
C is off.
Next up, C is Dollar Tree variance. That has been tabled, correct?
Yes.
But I will open the public hearing because we did have somebody that wants to speak about it. Is that, I'm gonna, Lamar Power? Come on up, sir. We're gonna give you 3 minutes to talk about it, okay?
First, I'd like to apologize. I came straight from work. I don't usually show up at public meetings without a better dressed. My main concern about this is if the variance is granted for this property, there are a number of other businesses on the four corners, and it's not fair to them not to grant a similar variance, and it will become very unsightly if everybody puts up bigger signs on both places. Not to mention, if they're close to the street, and you have more of them, it might obstruct the view of drivers and cause more accidents, might be a dangerous situation as well. So there's reasons why the limited number of signs are allowed, and I think those are good and valid reasons, and I'd hate to see them done away with.
All right, thank you. I did open the public hearing. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak on this? We did advertise it. It is being held over, so we'll be in another meeting. All right, we're going to close the public hearing. We're going to move on to the next.
I believe we need a motion to continue that to a date certain.
Sure. Can I please get a motion to continue that, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue the Family Dollar Tree variance number VR 22-07 to the September 13th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor, just say aye.
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 Perfect. Passes. Thank you. Next up, we have the special exemption for Orchard Park Assisted Living Facility, ALF, project number 0822SE0.
Did we skip one?
We skipped one.
Man, I was ready for that one, I'm sorry. And that's, you know, it's funny, it's the one I have right in front of my face, too. Okay. So we're gonna actually do Covington Oaks, rezoning from A1 General Agricultural to R1A Single Family Dwelling, project RZ220739, zoning manager Whitfield.
Thank you. So the request is to approve a rezoning from A1 to R1A for Covington Oaks property. The address is 866 80 Mims, to develop a 16-lot single-family subdivision. This is the location of the property right here. It's approximately 10.994 acres in size. It's currently wooded and vacant. It's not within any special overlay districts, and because this is only a rezoning and not a change in the future land use designation, there are no proposed increased entitlements in terms of density. This is an aerial of the property. The surrounding zoning, you have R1A on either side, east and west, and A1 on the north, and the south is county. It's all low-density residential, and this is the concept plan. So because this is a rezoning, this plan that you see here is just conceptual. There's no engineering yet. That will come later with the preliminary subdivision plan. But the applicant team provided this just to kind of show how they would create the lots. The lot sizes are larger than the R1A zoning district. And that is because this site will be serviced by septic. It'll be on central water, but it'll be on septic. So to account for the septic demands, they did make larger lot sizes. I also want to point out that out of the almost 10 acres, they're only developing about half of it. 3.6 acres will be left in conservation, open space, and then a small 1 acre, will be a stormwater pond that may or may not get amenitized. So their density is actually very, very low compared to the number of acres. The DRC met on this item on August 23rd and found that the rezoning is consistent with the comp plan and made a recommendation of approval. Staff is also making a recommendation of approval to go from A1 to R1A for Covington Oaks for the development of a 16-lot single-family detached subdivision. And I don't know if Zach is here. The applicant is here. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Real quick, so even on this as A1, right, trips are still already loaded in on this property, right?
Right, the future land use has already been there, and it's been there for a long time, so any traffic has already been captured in the conservancy.
Great, thank you. Does the applicant want to say anything? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Oh, great.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
I just have a general question. Why on septic? They don't have it, they don't have services in that area?
It's quite far away. It is like 1,600.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Yeah, it's Ohio Shore. It's pretty far away. Utility
Okay.
supported them going on septic.
Okay.
You can see the Mike Rimmer, Development Services Director, you can see the old development standards, the subdivisions to the side could be on septic, could be the 7,000 square foot lot. Today's regulations, it has a 35% open space requirement because it's in the Wekiva study area. And also because sewer is not available close enough, they have the opportunity with potable water to do septic, but by state law and our codes, in order to have potable water and septic, you have to have a minimum of 1/4 acre. We're rezoning it to R1. And if they develop, they will do septic, they will need a 1/4 acre. But if something were to pause over the years and we get sewer available, they could go and then develop under the R1 because they would have potable water and sewer. But it's not foreseen to have sewer run that way in our 10-year plan. So that's why you're only getting 16 lots, and everybody else has a lot more next to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. We'll open up to the public. Anybody have any questions or concerns? All right, we're going to close the public hearing, bring it back up. Anybody else have any other further questions? I will ask for a motion for recommendation, please.
I'll make the motion to recommend approval of the Covington Oaks rezoning from A1 to R1A, to RZ 220739.
Thank you. We have a recommendation for approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a recommendation for approval by Member Mellon and a second by Member Forges. Use the votes. All those in favor? Everybody voted yes on that. Congratulations. Okay, now can we do Orchard Park? Okay, cool.
We should do that one first.
All right, this is gonna be Orchard Park ALF 2755 Grapevine Crest. This is a special exemption, a special exception, 0822 SE 030. Before we get started, we have quite a few people that want to speak about this. I'm gonna assume all these people are gonna be speaking about the same thing. So everybody's gonna get 3 minutes, but I would just say if the person before you said the same thing, kind of limit your comments if we can. Staff, please.
Thank you. So the issue is, should the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the local planning agency, recommend approval for a special exception for, as the city classifies it, a major community residential home serving 10 residents on the property at 2755 Grapevine Crest. This is the location of the property on the east side of Grapevine Crest, about 660 feet south of Clarkona Ocoee Road, about 0.21 acres in size. It's currently operating as a minor community residential home serving 5 residents.
Sorry, it's already,
A minor one,
okay.
serving 5, yes. This is an aerial of the property. The surrounding zoning is all R1 AA. This is a floor plan that was submitted to the building division for permitting to make improvements to the home to accommodate the 10 residents. So I want to clarify that the table, our uses table 5-1, lists major community residential home as permitted. So the applicants move forward with the understanding that perhaps it's allowed, but when you look at the provisions that guides how to get there in section 5-15B, it says that it's through a conditional use permit. So the language that is relative to major community residential homes and minor community residential homes has been in place since 1992. And in that existing old language, it says that it's via a conditional use permit. When I look to the definition for a conditional use permit, it says to reference the special exception, which is a public hearing process, which is why we're here. So the criteria for a special exception is outlined in 4-8. That the uses and structures would not violate land use, density, or the directives of the comp plan or the code, that the use is compatible with nearby lands, that it doesn't impact the health and safety and welfare of the surrounding neighbors. It doesn't prevent surrounding neighbors from, owning, working, living in their areas. It doesn't impede pedestrian or vehicular movements along adjacent streets, and there's available public facilities to serve that use. What is also interesting, too, is that in section 5-15B, it states that a major community residential home has to meet the criteria for as if it were a multifamily development. In looking at that criteria in relation to these 3 criteria, we applied these 3 plus the standards that we would look for if it were a multifamily development. So we looked at it from the perspective of parking. Because the statute defines a community residential home as being a house or a dwelling unit, so one dwelling unit that provides living accommodations or living environment for 7 to 14 unrelated individuals, collectively operating as the functional equivalent of a family. So one dwelling unit, one family. Based on that statutory definition, staff reviewed this use as if it were one multifamily dwelling unit. So For a multifamily, for a dwelling unit, the requirement is 2 parking spaces. The site has more than 2 parking spaces. In terms of impervious surface area, the site meets it doesn't exceed the 50% for that zoning district. In terms of buffering, our comp plan and our land development code establishes buffers for when a non-residential use comes into an area that has residential uses. So that non-residential use will be required to buffer. In this instance, because the statute calls it out as residential, a single dwelling with 1 family, it's residential to residential, so they're not required to provide a 10-foot buffer. Other things such as open space, which is required for commercial development, it only requires it if the multifamily development has 12 or higher, or 12 or more dwelling units. In this instance, it's just the 1 dwelling unit. So they have, because they don't exceed the 50%, everything else on the lot would be green. In terms of height, the structure is the same. There are no other improvements proposed. The applicant has reached out to the building division, to the deputy building official, and the fire marshal to make the necessary improvements via a building permit to ensure building safety, compliance, and fire code compliance. So based on evaluating it based on a multifamily dwelling and the criteria for a special exception, staff finds that the proposed special exception use, i.e. conditional use, for 10 residents, they're not going up to 14. They're seeking a licensing from the state for 10. And I believe they have that now from the state. The DRC recommended approval, and staff is also recommending approval. And the applicant is here. Thank you.
Process question. So my understanding, they needed this for reservation, right? But it sounds like they've already gotten certified by the state.
So what happened was, when you look at the use table, that's typically what we go to first, is the use table. And the staff at the time issued them a letter for 10 because the use table says that a major, which is
Right.
7 to 14, is allowed. It wasn't until recently that we realized that there's a provision for process in section 5-15 that calls for it to go through the conditional use / special exception process.
Okay.
So they do have a letter from the city that says that they can have the 10. This is just a process to make sure that they are not creating an impact to the surrounding neighborhood.
Right. So normally, as long as they're in that 1,000 feet, we would just give them that reservation if they met those requirements.
Yes, sir. So for the distance requirement in statutes and in our code calls for 1,000 feet if it's a minor next to another minor. That distance increases to 1,200 feet if it's a major next to a minor. So they do meet that distance requirement.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Ken?
Yep.
Couple of questions. Do I understand that the building already has the 7 bedrooms in it, and it has the back, it looked like in the plans that there was also a way out, an access at the back of the house as well as at the front? Are those already there, or is there going to be construction? Because I'm hearing that you're saying that there's no changes to this property. But I'm just wondering, are they going to have to reconstruct this building?
So they won't have to reconstruct the external part. In this plan here, the improvements were made based on some direction that they had received previously for permitting on the inside. So this, I believe, has already been received stamp by the building department. This hearing is for the use aspect of it. So the improvements that you see here is in the permitting process. It's just waiting the use approval.
Okay, so they are going to be doing some changes to
Internal
the-
renovations, yes, not anything structural to the outside.
So they already have that second outside exit? Because you've got one in the back of the house, is what I'm...
I will have to defer to the applicants. I'm not sure
Okay,
if,
well, when they come up, they can answer. The second question is, how many cars are they anticipating? Because I know you have a driveway that can hold more than 2 cars, but at the same token, if you've got 7 people, or 10 people, that's 10 cars. I'm sure that the driveway in that subdivision is not going to be big enough for 10 cars. So now you have the process of how many cars is that parking on the street, and what does that do to the neighboring homes?
So we discussed at the DRC the parking topic. The residents that are residents of a community residential home, they're typically children. The way the statute defines it, the residents are the population served by the Department of Children and Families, the Department of Elderly Affairs, the ADA population, so those type of more sensitive populations. How the applicant described it to us at the DRC is that they are a by appointment only visitation, so they have appointment times to where they're not having multiple family members coming to the site, so they are providing parking on site.
Have you checked to see if there's been any code enforcement action or any violations to this property at all?
For this use, I
For
didn't.
the current use that's there already? Was that part of the due diligence?
No, I didn't check that part of
Okay.
it, no.
Anybody else?
And did you say that they already have their licensing?
They had their license because the staff issued a letter based on the use table that
They have
allowed
it for
10.
10.
Right,
Okay.
back in 2019.
Okay.
All right, great. Is the applicant here? Come on up. Just state your name when you get up there, if you would. Y'all can walk in front. You know it will be on camera, I promise.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Reshma Singh, and I'm the administrator owner of Orchard Park Assisted Living Facility. So my husband and I have owned and operated an adult family care home, which allowed us to care for 5 residents. Up until June of 2022, we were licensed by the state and approved for 10 residents. Part of that requirement for our application to the state was a zoning approval for 10 beds, in which we did have that letter from the zoning department.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
If I may, have you gotten with the homeowner association in your subdivision, and has this been approved by them as well?
Yes, our initial application for the 5-bed have been,
The 5-bed, but now that you're increasing it, has that gone back to them?
so it was not a requirement for our application, but we do have a member here supporting us this evening. I don't know if you'd like to hear from him. He's on the board, but he's here from the HOA.
Okay, I'm sure he's probably put in for speaking already, so that's fine. But I just wanted to make sure, because I know that's usually what happens, is all of a sudden we'll have the HOAs come to us and say, well, they never talked to us and they got your approval, but, and you do need both. So I just want to make sure that that's been taken care of as well.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have one. I know this is a residential, but isn't this technically a business?
Yes.
Okay, so.
No,
I
nothing
guess.
technical about it.
All right, then I guess I got a legal question then. There is the Harris Act, and I would imagine the homeowners around here probably aren't too terribly happy about it. And if a business drops the resale values of the surrounding areas, I mean, couldn't there be a legal recourse under the Harris Act?
That's not something I've researched, so I would not want to answer directly as to the Harris Act, but I will say that there is statutory provisions that do allow these types of assisted living facilities, or however it's
Residential.
termed, in residential areas. And as we were told earlier, it's, dedicated typically to special needs clients such as children, elderly, we gave the entire thing. So there is a statutory provision that does allow this in a residential area.
Okay, but would that negate, I guess, the Harris Act, which I guess specifically mentions resale values or appraisal values? If a business comes in and drops a value of a surrounding area, would there be a legal recourse against that business under the Harris Act?
That's not an answer I could give you at this time. I'd be happy to research it, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be outside of our purview, the scope of the board anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a single-family home. It's no difference if a landscaper's running a business out of it, it's still a single-family home. So I think we'll not put that under our purview. But any other questions before I open it up to the public? All right, this is a public hearing. We're going to open it up to the public. I do have some comments here. The first one's going to be by Kim Budale? Sorry. Just come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Yes.
Come on through.
Good evening. My name is Kim Boudre. I live at 1120 Alberta Street in Longwood. I have been associated with the Sings since the beginning, as has my husband. We own a small company that assists assisted living and residential care facilities and healthcare facilities across the state of Florida. We have about 200 clients, and our role in assisting these fine folks was to help them get started, make sure they were meeting all of the state requirements. One of that was we got the zoning letter, so we thought in all good faith we had achieved what we had. So we had the fire marshal, the local health department, all of which will maintain yearly inspections. And I can tell you that it is very much a home. These are all elderly clients, so there is not a lot of traffic. And we have about 200 clients, and I can promise you one of the two good kidneys I should still have, that they do not impact their community. Most people don't even know that there is an assisted living next to them. They're very, other than when they see the residents maybe going out to church or going out for an event, they are very low impact. Because they are a visitation facility, they do not impact really the parking, because they do visitations by appointment. They're certainly open to having any visitations and encourage that. But I've never seen a real increase in traffic, so I don't think that they had. And I can just tell you from someone who has done this, I'm a licensed administrator for both assisted livings and nursing homes and a risk manager, that these folks want a beautiful home. It's spacious, it's very, very well cared for, and if anything, from the inside and outside, it looks like any other home that's beautifully maintained. So I really don't think, and I think that's the intent of the state, and I work with ACA a great deal. The intent of the state is to allow residents to age in place in a community setting and as naturally as they can, and to try and that's what the Medicare waiver program is about, is to try and keep them out of nursing homes to the extent that we are possible. So I can't highly recommend these folks and what they're doing enough. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we have Jim Cellini. All right. You have 3 minutes, sir. Just state your name and address for me.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jim Cellini. I'm a resident that is adjacent to Mike's residence. I can verify that there is no impact that I have seen in the last couple of years on parking, anything like that. He is very confident that reservations for appointments and that is occurring, and it's very well organized. I don't see any issues with parking at all. I don't see any impact to the neighborhood. I've talked to the neighbors around in that area. None of them have any impact to that. We've got kids next door to them. We've got married couples with one or two. We've got couples with just adults. And it's never been an impact. I've known about it for a couple of years. And I think he's doing great. But I don't see any impact for the business.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Kathy Cellini.
I am Kathy Cellini. I live at 2768 Grapevine. I'm here to speak to the issues related to nursing and healthcare and the need for a facility like this. Certainly, I don't see any impact from the standpoint of how it affects my life on a daily basis in terms of traffic or noise, or worry that the residents are going to be out and endangered. I've seen the facility. I have examined it from my standpoint as a legal nurse consultant who worked for 8 years for a legal facility or a legal group that cared for medical malpractice with long-term care facilities. And this would be the stellar comparison that we would want all of our homes to have. Long-term care facilities generally, in the larger ones, have a great deal of difficulty in having adequate staff and adequate facilities. They tend to get old, and if they're for-profit institutions, there's oftentimes an agenda to put the minimum amount of money into the homes that's required for upkeep and for the legal processes that you find folks are all taking care of. I'm more concerned about what does it look like for those facilities. Does the resident feel like they're at home? Do their family members feel that they're comfortable coming there? Is it clean? Is it well-staffed? Is it well provided for? And I can say unequivocally, if I had a parent that needed to be someplace, that would be the kind of facility I would want my parent to be in. That's the kind of facility that I would want to be in, and that's coming up a little faster than I think I'd like.
Great, thank you very much. Anybody else? Come on up. Make sure you fill out a form. All right, you got 3 minutes. While he's coming up, I just have a question. I've been told there's more than one facility in that neighborhood, that there's also one on a different street.
Not in our GIS map, so if they're,
Excuse me.
not in our GIS map, so if they are operating one, the city's not aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. State
Good
your name
evening.
and address.
My name is Bob Misko. I'm the other half of Kim Boudre, and we own Environmental Services Staffing and Solutions. What I do for the company and what I've done for this facility, I wrote the fire plan. So there is an egress exit out the back end. I wrote the emergency power plan, which is dictated by Ocoee to have the 81 degrees or below if they lose primary utility power. They have that. They have the fuel for 96 hours. They've met that requirement. And I've written the emergency management plan that interacts with the county of Orange County, and I've already got all those plans approved. This place will rock. And that is because these people have really put their heart and soul into it. There's people out there that'll do these facilities, and we do over 200 of them. I do over 50 just in Orange County for the wrong reasons. These people have got it right. They want to take care of old people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Sir, please fill out a form there if you will.
I will.
All right, we'll take one more. Come on up. I didn't eat dinner before here, so I never do.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Jim Cass, 2717 Plumberry. I'm in Orchard Park. Next door to me is an Airbnb, which has been a 10-year nightmare of 3 a.m. Saturday night parties. So the underlying issue, obviously, running a business out of a residential. Now, come to the assisted living. I don't think there's going to be 3 a.m. ragers, but it's still the underlying issue of running a business out of a residential. Not a big fan of it. If you let this go, open the floodgates, what's next? You know, business on every corner. That's it.
Thank you very much. Don't forget to fill one of those forms out right there if you would. Thank you. All right, we're going to close the public hearing, bring it back up to the dais. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff before we get rolling? All right, then we will need a recommendation for approval or denial. I'll take it from anybody who wants to give it. Don't everybody speak at once.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just a quick question, though. Is it 10 rooms or 10 patients?
10 patients.
10 patients. Okay. Would there be any circumstance where they can have more than one patient per room?
More than one patient per room?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
You gotta come back up
So-
if you're gonna talk, sorry. I would have to, I'm gonna reopen the public hearing just for the applicant, and then we'll reclose it again after that. Told you I'm trying to get to dinner now.
I'm a delayed thinker. Okay, so,
State your name one more time.
Reshma Singh.
Okay.
And yes, we do have 3 rooms that are maximum of 2 residents per room,
Okay.
and then 4 rooms that are private.
okay, so the state rule, is it number of rooms or number of patients you can have? So meaning, could you have 20 patients tomorrow because you have enough room?
No.
No,
Okay,
it's the number of residents.
number of residents?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, in your first comment, you said there was someone from the board of the HOA here to support you, but
Yes.
I don't think that person spoke or identified themselves. Who's that? That's you?
Oh, I opened up the public hearing. Okay.
You're,
Please state your name and address for the record and fill a form out when you're finished.
Yes, my name is Sohan Singh, 2046 Orchard Park Drive. I've been on the board for more than 5 years, the ARC board, and they were approved initially with the 5 beds or the 5 patients. As far as I know, in our bylaws, it doesn't say anything that getting not approval for 10 patients.
okay, you're on the architectural review
Review
committee,
board.
you're not on the board of directors?
No,
is that
not a board
correct?
director, that's correct.
Okay, and to your knowledge, there's nothing in the covenants
That's
that
correct.
restricts this?
That's right.
Thank you, that's what I want to know.
Does anybody else have any other questions for the applicant? All right, I'm absolutely closing the public hearing this time. Okay, now, does anybody have a motion to give me for approval or denial for a recommendation?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the special exception request for a major community residential home.
Thank you. We have a recommendation for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a recommendation for approval by Vice Chair Kennedy. We have a second by Member Williams. Any other discussion? Let's go ahead and vote. Did it work? Yep. All right, we have, it passes 4-1. Thank you very much. All right, next up on the business, we have Ocoee Oaks Joint Venture rezoning from A1 General Architecture, or Agriculture to R1A Single Family Dwelling, Project RZ 220843. Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the request before the commission is for approval of rezoning from A1 to R1A for the Ocoee Oaks Joint Venture property located at 201 South Clark. That is for an 18-lot subdivision. That's the site where the water tower is. Thank you. So the location is generally in the northeast corner of Clark Road and White Road intersection. It's, the entire parent parcel itself is 12.59 acres in size. The church occupies the north portion of the site. The church is considering selling the southern 5.7 acre portion to a development for 18-lot single-family detached homes. It's not in any special overlays, again, like the other one, because the future land use designation, which regulates density, is not being changed. It's just a rezoning. There are no density increases in entitlements, meaning the number of units per acre. This is an aerial of the site. This is the surrounding zoning. A1 is the parent property, with R1A on the east side and PUD on the south. It's surrounded by LDR, low-density residential. Again, like with the other one, a rezoning doesn't require a preliminary subdivision plan to be submitted. However, the applicant team provided a conceptual This is showing 18 lots, all single-family detached with a cul-de-sac. Their density is about 3.15, 3.25 units per acre. The max is 4. The lot sizes, based on this configuration, would meet the minimum requirements for that zoning district that they're seeking, and all of the engineering would occur when they submit the preliminary subdivision plan. The DRC met and discussed this item on August 23rd, finding that it is compliant with the comprehensive plan. The DRC recommended approval. Staff is also recommending approval to change the property from A1 to R1A for the Ocoee Oaks joint venture for the development of an 18-lot subdivision. Thank you. I'm not sure if the applicant team is here. Oh, there he is.
While he comes, Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff.
Go.
All right. For the access for this property, is it going to be right on, it's on White Road, correct?
Yes.
Is there going to be a widening of White Road that I've missed, or is capacity already accounted for in that area?
Capacity should already be accounted for because the land use designation isn't changing. It's been historically LDR for quite a while.
We have
Sure, it's
our
already there.
engineer here, if you have any questions for him as well.
So the trips are already there, just like the last one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
And-
Anybody? Oh, sorry. Please.
I'm sorry, is this a joint venture because it's in conjunction with the church, or it's
I think that's just the
another
name
type
of
of joint venture?
No, we're buying it from the church.
Okay, I just wanted
It's a
to make
joint venture
sure.
between Jack Speaks and myself.
Okay, hang on, I haven't opened it up. Look.
I'm Daisy's other
Oh, I'm
half, by the
No,
way.
you're fine. Any other questions for staff first? Okay, so we're going to open
Carlos
it up. If
Bonilla.
you state your name, please.
Carlos Bonilla.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? All right, we'll open it up to the public. Does anybody in the public want to speak about this? Yes? All right, I think I have some, I do have some. Ellen Redfern will be first. Sorry. I forgot I had speaker notes already. Ooh, pictures. Love it when you have illustrations.
Oh, wow, that makes you dizzy if you look at it.
Just say your name and address for the,
Hello, my name is Eileen Redfern. I live at 395 Robbins Glen Road in White Hill subdivision. I've lived there since 1993, which is almost 29 years. We purchased this property because of the natural wooded area behind our house, which was owned by the church, so we knew we wouldn't have houses built behind us. We have a pool in our backyard, but we chose not to screen it in so that we wouldn't block the beautiful view of the wooded area. We've worked hard to keep our backyard as our own private sanctuary. My husband and I love to sit on the patio all the time. We talk, we read, and just to relax and enjoy watching and listening to the wildlife around us. We enjoy our privacy by not having anyone looking into our backyard and also not having to look at someone else's house and yard. When I'm working upstairs, I constantly see butterflies, dragonflies, and birds flying back and forth in this area. I never fully realized the diverse wildlife that inhabited the wooded area until COVID-19 hit us. I work from home most of the week, which has allowed me to photograph a wide variety of wildlife in this natural habitat. This is just from January 2020 through August 2022. I've documented this wildlife by taking photographs of what was in my backyard or what I could see from my backyard. I have photographed 45 different types of birds. So many birds I never knew existed, including a lot of migratory birds. 10 different types of butterflies, and there's still a few types that I haven't been able to photograph because they stay behind the fence. 6 different types of dragonflies, 6 different types of bees, and 3 of those I had never even seen before. I have also photographed squirrels, raccoons, opossums, and a variety of reptiles and amphibians. I'm sure there's rabbits, turtles, and many other animals I haven't been fortunate enough to see or photograph that live in the wooded area. Our family, and especially our grandchildren, really love coming over and experiencing all of the diverse wildlife around our backyard. And each of these different types of wildlife equals 100 reasons why this natural habitat should not be demolished. I love nature, I love animals, and I'm passionate about being able to preserve it and enjoy it. Please let this diverse wildlife live in peace and keep their happy homes. Please don't destroy it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next up is going to be Doug Gauber. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Just state your name and address when you get up there, if you would.
My name is Doug Gomber. I reside at 405 Misty Meadow. It's in the White Hill subdivision. I am the president of the HOA Association, and it's my association that's going to be most impacted by this development. About 7 or 8 of my lots will back up to this development. We're severely concerned about several things. One is, and I walked the property this morning, I'm very concerned about once you put all the concrete up there, the runoff from storms is going to come right back into my backyards of the people that are in the backside of the White Hill facility. The other thing we're concerned about, and they say that you're going to have an access coming out onto White Road. Well, just this last year, they put a berm in there right up to this traffic signal. There's no way that anybody's going to be able to come out of a subdivision here and turn left. This is going to be a traffic nightmare between the entrance to my subdivision and the intersection with White and Clark Road. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. The other thing we're concerned about is the valuation of number of lots being put in this area. If there's going to be only 5.71 acres, and by the time you take roads and entrances and byways and easements to put 18 homes in there, you say that that's going to be fine. I think that's going to be pretty darn tight. And I'm worried about the valuation of the homes that are going to be going in there that's going to affect the valuation of not only my subdivision, but the other subdivisions that are around. This area, when we moved here, was never going to be residential. It was going to be left this way, and the church told us that was what they were going to do. We're very opposed to this unless we get some answers to the traffic issues and the grading of this property. We never saw any of this with the property, having your lots and everything laid out until tonight. So we're not really ready for you guys to go ahead with this. We'd like to see you delay this, table this until more information is available, especially to the people in our subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next is Robert Phillies? Robert Phillies? Oh, that's a different thing. Jeez Louise. Anybody else in the public want to speak about this matter? All right, I'm going to keep it open for a minute because I may ask you to come back up, Mr. Gomber. So I want to ask you a couple questions real quick. First, there is a large median that goes right in front of there that goes all the way down to the other subdivision. What are there any road improvements that are going to be done with this? How are you going to get in and out of that property? Because you're right, they're only going to be able to turn on Clark. How are they going to go back to the Circle K?
We discussed access, ingress, egress, and our engineers have made us understand that there would be a left in and a right out, left out.
How do you do that with a median there?
I think we're going to have to deal with the median somehow.
It's a small median too. It's a bumper median. It's not a big median.
Right.
All right, sorry.
We'll look at that when the mic is off. So we look at that at the preliminary site plan, or the preliminary subdivision plan stage. If the city, and I'm sure it does, adopts the same standards as the DOT, we would utilize the DOT index for spacing and median openings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because right now there's no way for them to go out the other way.
It looks like it will just be a right in, right out right now.
So that means they'd have to turn right, go to Clark, whip around to go back if they needed to go to Good Homes or Circle K.
So when the PSP comes in, if the need warrants it, we would have a traffic study to look at operations, but it wouldn't be a capacity analysis, it'll be an operations analysis.
And I know this is early, it probably is not being done yet, but what about the water mitigation, right? Does it all stay on property here?
Yes, it has to stay on site.
It doesn't need any
Retention pond?
drainage or retention, because it all has to stay inside, right?
Well, subdivisions have to provide on-site or on-property drainage, so that'll be looked at as part of the subdivision plan.
Okay. Does anybody have, before I close the public hearing, does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay.
I have a couple comments, if I may.
Last chance. Who else wants to talk in the public? Come on up, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Can you pull back up the one?
Okay, I will. I'm sorry that I cut you off, sir, and we'll let you talk before we're done.
Chad Schaefer, 267 Robbins Glen. Can you pull up the, the one back?
Which one do you want to see?
Oh, that one right there.
Is that the one you want to see?
Yep, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm looking at it. So if I'm reading you guys correctly, a left in going east on White Road, left in the subdivision?
It'll be a right in, right out right now.
Right in,
without
right
any-
out.
Right in and right out, that's it?
That's it.
Okay. So, I agree with Doug, I disagree with this. Basically for the traffic issue, you don't have to do a study. Come out there in the afternoon for 5 minutes and you'll see the backup from all the way down White Road, almost to the subdivision, just about our city limits. And then coming from the other way, same situation, they have to turn around and probably come in our subdivision and turn around to get to their subdivision. So there has to be, I definitely would suggest a traffic study to make sure that, that they can handle that. And then what's your options? Because we'll be sitting in lights, we're gonna be sitting waiting for 18 people, 18 households, correct? Times, 2.5 cars per household, coming in and out of that particular area and butting up right against our homes. So I definitely suggest that happening before, any decisions are made forward. That's all.
Thank you. You come back up, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off before.
The first speaker, I appreciate what you've said. If my son was here, he'd probably say, "Daddy, what are you doing?" Because I love the birds and the butterflies as well. But we're going to put a fence in the east side of our property line, so you're not going to be looking at anybody's backyard. So that's the first thing. The drainage actually goes north toward the back of the church. There is preliminary studies and such that have been done on how that drainage is going to work, and you're correct, it has to stay on site. Property values, starting price for these homes, 2,500 square feet, is $550,000, so it brings all of your property values up, not down. 2,500 square foot homes.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're going to close the public hearing now, bring it back up to the dais. Does anybody else have any questions up here for staff?
I have one.
All right, we're going to start with Scott, and then we'll hit Member Keller.
Can you clarify for me, there seems to be some specifics and some non-specifics being tossed around
Okay.
as to the nature of the homes, the size of the homes, the price of the homes, it's how many homes, but we're not looking at any of that. We're simply being asked to approve the zoning.
That's correct.
And the future land use is already single-family residential for that property?
That's correct.
Have any promises from the church or whatever, is any of that relevant to this proceeding?
No, sir, the church has the ability as a private property owner to do what it wants with its property.
So if the church implied or stated in the past that that would never be developed, that's irrelevant at this point?
Correct, we don't uphold private agreements.
Okay, that answers my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I just have
Yes,
one.
Keller. Mr. Keller.
And more of just a technicality in my head that I want to understand. When I look at the, what we're looking at, it's basically a rectangle, but I noticed that on the location map, it also shows that it's going out towards the west, on the other side of the water tower. Is this, what are we just doing this piece, or are we doing the whole?
Just the 5.71 acre piece.
Okay, so even though it's blocked off as one piece on the other, if you go back to the
That's the church's property.
rezoning location map, yeah. Yeah.
It's just a rough box. It's not design, the box wasn't drawn to the actual survey. It's just a general location.
Yeah, go back one, I guess, what is it? The one I'm looking at says the Ocoee Oaks Joint Venture Rezoning Location Map. Yeah, see how they got, now on ours, it's just one square.
Well, there's that
So is
red
that
line.
other piece of property theirs also, or is that still the church and this is
It's
two
all
separate
one.
properties?
So if you can follow my mouse, the dark bold black line is the entire church property, 12 acres. The yellow hash area that's outlined in red is an approximation of the 5.7 that they're asking for a rezoning for. So the rest of the church property will still stay A1.
It's a lot split in all
Part of the
regards.
subdivision,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so there is gonna be a split then in there, okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, will this come back to us then? If this is just for rezoning, would it come back to us for
Yes,
a development?
a preliminary subdivision plan
Okay,
and
thank
final
you.
plat.
Do we ever have the opportunity to do don't we do it sometimes where we do the rezoning and the preliminary site plan all in the same time, which will have the ingress and egress done at that point?
We have applications like that, but
Yeah, it depends on the situation. As an example, the earlier item, the subdivision, when we annexed it in, we weren't sure what zoning it would take, so we just gave it an agricultural zoning. In this case, this is existing land, it has an agricultural zoning, and it has, in our comprehensive plan, we do not have a future land use designation of agricultural or rural. It's either low density, medium, or high density.
Right.
And so this is not a rezoning to plan unit development. So what this is saying is, our intent is to construct a subdivision that meets all of the minimum code criteria. We're not going to do waivers. We don't need to create a plan unit development because we want 50-foot wide lots. So they have 5 acres. Technically, the zoning of A1 it conflicts with the low-density residential land use. But so that's why the land use is saying we are projecting up to 4 dwelling units an acre in the future. They're just bringing the zoning in compliance. The next step, it's all in the engineering.
Yep.
Okay, we like to go one step further, and because we are televised and we have an audience, we like to provide as much information, so we show you just a concept layout. Because we want to be sure that they're not thinking they're going to get 50-foot wide lots, because that would be a plan unit development, because none of our zoning districts allow that. And we just kind of show you what it's going to look like, but that doesn't mean the approval is they get 16 lots. It's all in the engineering. You got to take open space, buffers, setbacks, soil conditions, pond, location, right-of-way access, position of the right-of-way, lift station tract, is it gravity? You take all that in, and what you're left with, the lots have to meet R1A.
Yes.
So they will match the lots next to them in size. They won't be any smaller.
And
What
they
they
can't
get out of that,
automatically-
it's all in the engineering, and then it's all economics if they want to go forward.
They can't automatically, that's not a shovel-ready permit, right? They have to come back.
They have to
Yes,
go
they have
through,
to
not only with the city, but they have to get St. John's River Water Management District approval on their retention. White Road will either be, the city and the county has ownership and maintenance, I don't know whoever has ownership and maintenance, they will get a right-of-way use permit, or it's involved with the site permit if it's with the city. It may meet the engineering criteria to have a left-in only, or it may not, but still, it's a determination of the city whether we're going to grant that.
Right.
So.
All right, anybody else? And I would say my opinion is right. I think I think this is probably a good use. I think it just needs to be tweaked on how it's coming in and out. And then that's just not our purview right now. Our purview is to decide if we need to rezone it. It's gonna come back. They'll have all that time to make those decisions, and we'll have to reapprove those then. So I would tell everybody, you're thinking right now, I wouldn't base your decision on if the roads are good or not or whatnot. This is just about changing the rezoning at this point.
Yeah, if they were asking to amend the land use to medium density, which affords up to 8 units an acre, then as Anat said, a capacity study and operational would be required. But because they're meeting the land use, it's operational. The trip generation, which way are they dispersing, what is the peak time, what does it mean, does it impact, but we're not studying the system because they're not really bringing in new trips. It was already accounted for up to 4 per acre.
Thank you. All right, last questions. Anybody else? All right, I will ask for an approval or denial for recommendation, please.
Chair, I move for approval of the rezoning from A1 to R1A for the Ocoee Oaks Joint Venture, case number RZ 2208-43.
All right, I have an approval for recommendation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I have an approval for recommendation by Member Williams and a second by Vice Chair Kennedy. Before we vote, I just want to make sure everybody in the public knows that this is just rezoning. They still got a lot of steps. You guys got a lot more ways to talk about this. So don't think that you're down and out. There's a lot more to go. So we'll go ahead and take a vote, please. All right, it passed in favor 5-0. Thank you very much. All right, next up. Thank you, everybody that came out to talk about that, by the way. I know it's not easy.
Mr. Chairman, we're working on that. For some reason, if everybody votes yes, the red line goes all the way, and you kind of tricks you to
I
thinking.
know.
It
I
was
got to figure out how to
50-50,
count.
Yes, so they're working on that.
Oh, goodness. Okay, next one up is going to be the Ocoee Landings mixed-use building, substantial amendment to the planned unit development, land use plan, and large-scale site plan. Project numbers RZ 220714 and LS 2022-007. We will have 2 motions that'll be needed on this, so we'll go ahead with Development Service, Mike Rumor.
Yes, thank you. This property this is a substantial amendment to a planned unit development. So this property was rezoned to a specific uses and a specific type of a development pattern that didn't meet just general commercial codes. And in that planned unit development, it had a residential portion and it had a commercial portion. The amount of units approved in that initial PUD, planned unit development, was 50 units. This is a substantial amendment. So you have 2 types of amendments to planned unit developments, non-substantial or substantial. A non-substantial amendment is a minor change in the plan or in the specifics, but one that does not increase density, intensity, access points, or uses. And in this case, they are proposing to increase density of the residential and decrease the density of commercial, but that new use, that increase above 50 units, made this a substantial amendment to the planned unit development. And then the planned unit development had a master infrastructure that was in place, so a site plan was fairly easy to accompany it, so we have that as well. The property is located in the Ocoee Landing planned unit development along Silver Star. On the north side of Silver Star is east of Clark Road and Lake Johio Drive. If I can show you, if you can see the cursor, initially we had the 50 units, the Hovnanian homes, which are built out. We have 2 large stormwater tracts for the master development. On the west side, we have the Everest Rehabilitation Hospital, which just broke ground, and this is the last tract in the PUD. Initially, it thought it would consist of 4 commercial lots and then the residential, as you see, and that changed. It developed as the Everest took up what would be considered 3 lots, and this is the 4th one. This tract is 1.77 acres. It's vacant. There is, looking at the property, there is a wall on the north side and there is a wall on the east side adjacent to the stormwater track. You have the Willows subdivision to the rear, the public shopping center, and as I said, the Everest Rehabilitation Hospital on the west side. The zoning of the map is commercial plan unit development. It's done in a mixed-use development, so you have the mixture of residential and commercial. The future land use of the property is commercial. So the proposal. So what the applicants are proposing is a mixed-use building. So we have a mixed-use PUD with different uses complementing each other in the PUD. Now we're going to a building that has a mixture of uses. This mixture, it's a 51,680 square foot building. The first floor is primarily retail with some leasing space for the multifamily above it. Then the second and third floors accommodate 42 apartment units. That's a mixed-use building. And the units that are being added, substantial amendment, that's why we're here. They have received a approval for capacity from the school board. There is capacity available for the students that this type of use would generate under the Orange County School Board's student generation. There are no changes to access points. This parcel, when it was a commercial lot, would have had cross-access with the driveway that Everest, what the property owners and the applicants told me, that cross-access, and there is a cross-parking agreement in place presently today. So it receives its access via cross-access easement, which if it was a commercial lot, if it was developing and not amending, it would have had that same cross-access. So we're not changing access points. We're not changing, let me go to the aerial again. Well, you don't see the access that, so there's going to be a ring road drive that Everest is constructing. So they will have access not only via the right in, right out on Silver Star, but they will have access on the rear of Lake Ohio Road through the Everest site. As I said, this plan, this mixed-use building is able to accommodate the parking necessary for the units in the retail, and they also have the ability, they're showing through their cross-access and cross-parking agreement, they're able to even have some additional parking on the Everest side and vice versa. If for some reason Everest were ever to be packed, they would have parking on this side. What you're seeing on this plan is the landscape buffer along the front. They have a little linear sort of park, place to walk your dog with a sidewalk, benches. This is up against a wall which is adjacent to the stormwater pond. We have the landscape buffer on the rear. You have a wall, and there will be the landscaping, the canopy trees in the understory. They have the garbage dumpster, and then they have the associated parking for this building. And this building meets the front setback off an arterial road, and the renderings are provided as well. And so with this, there's no changes to drainage, master stormwater pond. They can accommodate parking. They were okayed with the uses through the school board, the new generation, student generation. Staff has there's no negative effects that we can find in the land development code or in the PUD. The height will meet the height of the zoning district. We're not requesting waivers. So this is a situation where they're using a mixed-use building in an area that's becoming more urbanized, and staff supports the requested amendment to the PUD.
All right, thank you. We'll have some questions for staff. I'll start. So when we were doing Everest, I think there was a bunch of comments back and forth. I can't remember, you have to refresh my memory, but I believe it was the cross-access stuff, right? But I think that when this was still
I remember when a Firestone was proposed where Everest is, there were comments. I don't remember on Everest.
Everest too, and I believe it was the cross-access stuff, but there's agreements that.
Oh, yes, yes.
Everybody's happy.
Yes. So, yeah, and they're showing that, you can see here, they are able to, this initially, the plan for the PD had this cross-access, and they are able to get an additional one to the north, as well as cross-parking agreement. So if you were coming or going, you could leave, take a right, and loop around and end up on Ohio Road, Lake Ohio Road, and go to the Publix, or you can come out here and make a right out.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me.
And I do want to state that with this mixed-use PUD, at the time they were permitting, because Silver Star Road is a state road, and it's a four-way intersection, and everyone assumed there would be a traffic signal. DOT put in this bidirectional left-only situation until such time as their traffic analysis shows that it needs to be signalized. The signal really was thought of because this was all commercial, and you could have had 250,000 square feet of commercial uses there, which would have generated a lot of trips. But the single family generated less trips than the commercial could if you go on acreage to acreage, and this as well. But we don't control that intersection. We hope that at some point before it's a necessity, one of their sevens, fatal accident and such, that it does become a signalized intersection.
Yeah, because big median there, right? You
Yes.
gotta go almost all the way down
Yep.
to the.
All the way down and do the turn, yes. To DOT, a U-turn like that is safer than hanging out there in the median making a left, so.
All right, we're gonna open it up, let the applicant come up if they'd like to say anything. Make sure you're ready to talk about retail, because we want restaurants. I'm consistent if not anything.
Okay. I didn't know you had a fancy AV system, but.
We already have that.
Huh?
We already have
We
that.
are, yeah.
Oh, this was some additional information just for clarification. So I just wanted to make sure that if you had some questions, that I can answer those for you. Yes, in case you-
Thank you.
Everybody get one? And there was,
Thanks, sir. You got yours, Clark.
Say your name and your
Yeah, I'm David Mayer. I'm an architect with Kuhachi Peterson Architects. We're in Maitland, Florida. And Rose and Mary with me, the ownership. So basically, we did want to just reiterate some of the things that Mike said with the colors. With the building there, you'll see that we did take some clues from the Everest development in regards to the colors of the building, trying to be complementary, but not necessarily a duplicate in the architecture. So we're trying to make it look as more of a cohesive development. Also, in regards to the building perspective, there's some, I have put a couple of perspectives in there just to get a little better view, because sometimes it's hard to see on a flat 2D elevation what it looks like, but we do have some undulation within the architecture of the building, which allows for some visual interest, so it's not flat. This is another picture of that. So, very slick system here. And again, in order to make sure that we're providing enough parking, we even went to the extent of providing some parking that kind of goes under the building here at this one side, again, trying to meet the requirements of the parking for the community. So we're trying to be as close as possible. And this is kind of small, but we're about 300 feet, and this is about 50, I'm trying to read that myself, 5810. So that gives you a little bit of size of the building. So certainly if you have any questions, we can answer those.
Yeah, what does your retail look like? Have you guys got any tenants yet, and are any of them restaurants?
Well, the restaurants are a good idea, but with the restriction on the parking, are not looking at the restaurants right now. The restaurants typically have a denser parking requirement. And so we'd love to have a restaurant if we can figure out how to work with the parking restrictions. But as you know, you have a lot more parking with restaurants. And so that's going to push our parking into some issues unless, again, with the cooperation with the parking next door, we can utilize that. That would be a great opportunity.
So no takeout, no nothing.
We'd love to have it as long as we can meet the parking requirements.
Chairman, we talked, this was a lot of the discussion was regarding the retail uses and what happens when you have good, successful restaurants. We see that with the Rustique and the Joe's Pizza and another plaza. And so we really had to look to get a workable project. We had to say you're probably limited on the sit-down seating, more of that sort of takeout, maybe like the Dickies or something like that, but nothing really large because it would eat up parking. And as they build out the shell and start building the interior, we will be looking at those uses. And so it's going to be hard to have a really good restaurant in there, sit down, but you could have several of the other types.
I understand trips, and I understand we got to get the people to do it, but that is prime restaurant real estate. So if they needed to, is there a way to make this, take some of the residents out to make the footprint smaller so that will accompany a restaurant?
This is a second, third iteration. They've been working on it based off of comments similar to that, so.
Yeah, again, I don't want to be a pain in the tail, but I'm going to be very consistent. Restaurant, even before Firestone went in here, I said the same thing, right? Wish we'd have got the Cracker Barrel back in the day. Anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead.
Your elevations, the only material it says is painted steel awnings. What is the external material of your building?
Oh, yeah, we're looking at a stucco finish. It could be traditional stucco or an IFS stucco finish, but in that genre. Again, picking some clues off with the Everest development in the materials. And then, like you said, we've got the glass for the storefront and then the metal awnings that, provide that shelter for the customers coming in and out there.
Second question, I didn't understand the under building parking. What is the purpose of that? It sounded like you were just trying to squeeze a couple parking spaces in to meet a requirement.
There you go.
Not a fan of that.
Sometimes you got to find it where you can get it.
Working hard, huh?
Anybody else have any other questions?
That was some of the comments that Mike said that we were working hard on, so yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to open it up to the public. We do have quite a bit of comments on this one. So again, like I said in the other one, if your guys' comments are repetitive or the same, kind of, we want to hear everybody. So we're going to start with Robert Phillies. All right, you're good. Come on up. I understand.
We can get a Starbucks in there.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Phillips, 1877 Ivies Bay Court. I've been a resident since I purchased the home June 6, 2020. When we purchased the home, the developer was fantastic in showing us the external properties that were going to be in front of our community. They explained it would be commercial use. And my understanding is nobody's had a problem with the fact that it could be potential commercial use, not additional residential space. So one thing I understand the job of the commission, and I appreciate your service, is to balance the needs of moving Ocoee forward, but also balancing the needs of the residents to have a nice, quieter community. We have no problem with a commercial development, at least, excuse me, I'm not speaking for the group, speaking for myself. I'm okay with the commercial use of it. My preference would be, I'd like to give you a solution of keeping it C1 or C2. We have C3 across the street. So that's the typical, the higher density commercial use, heavier use with a lot more traffic. But C1 and C2, and if I can refer to my electronic brain, just for those that don't have access to this, C1 is a neighborhood shopping district, and C2 is a community commercial district. And there are some restrictions with that as far as how that land is used, and that would be my personal preference. My concerns about what's going on is going to be the privacy. I do live on that south side of that property, so my concern would be with a 3-story building that's residential. If there is balconies on the north side of that building facing our property, I might not be as impacted as much as my neighbors that are directly behind that community. Their privacy would be invaded because they would be looking straight down at them. And so we do have those concerns. So that's my personal opinion. I know that you have a tough decision to make ahead of you, and I just want to say thank you for your service. I know that you'll make the right decision, whatever that decision may be, but thanks for entertaining my comments. Have a good evening.
No, I don't see any, they can answer that, but I do want to state that these elevations run with the project. So when they come in for building permits, and if they change elevations, we bring them back through, so.
All right. Next up's gonna be David Cross. Come on up, say your name and address.
Hey, my name is David Cross. I'm a homeowner of Ocoee Landings. I would hope that the Planning and Zoning Committee reject the proposal to rezone this plot of land. The plan includes a solitary, multi-story apartment building, alone in a sea of purpose-built commercial and single-family homes. It is my belief that this concrete rectangle will be an eyesore on Silver Star and Clark Road that affects the perception of quality in the Ocoee Landings and Lake Johio area. Within the commercial space, there is a rumored VA hospital on a 50-year lease and a high-end restaurant space. This news, however, makes me feel as though there's only served to reinforce the idea that a high-density apartment here would be a bad choice, as parking, according to this plan, is up against its legal limits to support the residents, stifling the expansion of the commercial space and success of any commercial space. With the expansion of Clark Road and other large-scale projects coming, the trip counts are projected to rise across Clark Road. That makes long-term commitments like Everest Medical Center and the VA Medical Center, this would reinforce its desirability as it's currently zoned commercial purpose. City planning is like a marriage, favoring long-term commitments, not fleeting one-year contracts like apartment rentals, which are fun while housing is booming, but abandoned when times are hard. For richer or poorer, Chase or McCoy, in sickness in an Everest Medical Center. I hope this committee sticks to its promise that the current zoning be made and don't abandon its commitments made to the home ownership and single-use commercial properties in its vicinity. Thank you.
I want to ask you a question before you get up.
Yes,
I gotta say, I'm trying to understand why a residential property would be any worse than a commercial property that has way more traffic and way more parking to it.
For one, the commercial property is, this high-density residential property is 3 stories. It looks bad. Like, it looks like a project building. What was you were talking about a commercial building space there, right? Commercial spaces require parking, and they're trying to put commercial space as the first floor anyway. So they're going to add, so they're bunting up against legal limits of parking, or, anyway. And they're gonna destroy the commercial value of it that's the current zone.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we're gonna have LeBron Alexis. Come on up, please. Just state your name and address if you would.
LeBron Alexis, 1853 Abyss Bay. Based on your question that you asked about what's the difference, right? Difference will be a quiet evening between a commercial versus a residential, right? This building will be immediately in my backyard. So someone 2 or 3 story up. My sliding door open up to it. As you walk out, there you go. When I purchased the home, that was not the plan. So here we are discussing something different. We're talking about most apartment move-in residential, safety comes up, my safety, my kids' safety, other people's safety. So we have a lot to consider before we just go zoom into it.
Is apartments or condos? Is it is this multifamily?
Multifamily apartments? Apartment
Okay.
rentals.
All rentals, no ownership in it, right? Okay, cool. All right.
You got it.
This thing was never zoned.
Go ahead, you can say something. Just say your name and,
Hi, it's Rose Thomas. How are you all this evening? As far as the balconies for the building, the design doesn't have any balconies. We took into consideration the 7 homes that back up against the property line. In addition, our buffer line is 15 to 20 in certain areas. You may correct me if I'm wrong, so it's a lot more in taking that into consideration. The planned unit development, it's to give that urban effect. We're putting $10 million into this project at value at $20 million. It's to bring the neighborhood into that urban mixed-use setting, which a lot of communities really like. As far as the market rate, the units will be at market rate, which is rather high. We've looked at a study. The city of Ocoee, you all have done a great job because you have the highest rents in Central Florida. So they are set to be luxury apartments, units. And we even condensed the size a bit to where they're smaller units to give that more urban effect.
thank you. All right, last commenter we have is Vivian Light Johnson. Just say your name and address, please, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Vivian Light Johnson. I live at 1884 Ibis Bay in Ocoee Landings. And I support my neighbors and their concern. However, I do have a little bit of a different perspective because my children have been looking for luxury apartments, wanting to not leave this area. And that's the one thing they've been very, very concerned about, that they have to move so far away from me because they want that luxury kind of apartment. And when I first heard this discussion, I sort of thought it was going to be similar to what I heard at the council meeting over near Ocoee High School. And I guess that's my question. Is it the same kind of a thing, or is it totally different?
Totally different.
Okay. So I do support my neighbors, though, because I don't live on that end. But I do want to see somehow we get some kind of more luxury kind of style of apartment, some kind of way in this area. And I heard that Starbucks comment. That's my thing is Starbucks, Whole Foods, Trader Joe. That's the kind of commercial properties I'm looking for.
Your mouth in God's ears. All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public want to make a comment? Please come up, make sure you write your name and information on the card, say your name and address before you start.
I'm Rochelle Drayton. I live at 1908 Ibis Bay Court. Okay, I do wholeheartedly support my neighbors, okay? A luxury apartment building, no matter what, it will bring also multiple people because if the rent is too high, that means it's going to be several people in this particular apartment. Everyone can't afford a luxury apartment at this time. I work downtown Orlando. I see these type of buildings all over that are being built, and there is still commercial space that's even open because people are not putting in retail shops like they stated, or restaurants, or whatever the case may be. It's so much open space to the point where it has developed a high crime level downtown as well. They have a 7-Eleven down there, crime. Police are always up and down. So now we're going to make our Ocoee Police Department very busy here. We already have situations where we have cars coming into the neighborhood. Some have been abandoned. They've since left. The other day I pulled up, there was a car that was coming, stopped on the side of the road. You couldn't even come into the subdivision. I had to go around because someone moved it, or I don't know if the Ocoee police had stopped the person, no matter what. But a commercial or apartment building, it's going to be too much for that side. We need to keep it at maybe a restaurant, like you stated, Chairman, or something else. I'm a veteran, a VA facility, something medical, but not an apartment building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, we're going to do one or two more here. Yeah, make sure you fill out your form. Thank you. After her, you can come up next, and then hopefully that'll be it. State your name and address, please.
Hello, I am Summer Jenkins. I live at 1915 Ibis Bay Court. Quick show of hands, how many people are married in here? Okay. All right. So my wife said no. I had to come tell y'all no on her behalf because she's sick. So there's that for the guys. Also, yeah, I don't think it'll be a good idea to put an apartment building there as well. We're talking about commercial space. There's a whole mall with nothing in it. Bunch of commercial space. Bunch of investors, I'm sure, is in here. Look at the mall because we need to probably build that up. It's in Ocoee, right? It's at the corner of West Colonial and Clark. We can use that. That's pretty much all I got. Oh, I'm also on the board, so I had to say something too. So.
You're part of the HOA board, is
Yes,
that what
I
you're
am.
saying? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
Come on up. Sure. If I knew we had all these people, I'd made y'all go first. Sorry about that. State your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Giselle Johnson, and I'm at 1854 Ibis Bay Court. And the one thing that concerns me is the entrances that we're talking about and the lack of the light. With the turnarounds only being able to come up Clark, in order for them, if they're coming from the other direction, they have to do the U-turn right at the mouth of our neighborhood. Clark Road is a speed trap now, coming around the curve because there's no light to stop. I mean, it's constant. In certain times of the day, it's worse than others in the morning, late in the afternoon. It would just really be a nightmare to have all that traffic and everybody. And we already see, even if you're going down Clark towards that light, it's illegal to make a U-turn, which people do all the time. So therefore, when we go that way, we have to get back to our neighborhood. We have to go all the way around through the parking lot behind Walgreens just to get back to our neighborhood. So that's also going to create a burden for them as well. And I'm sure if the parking is overflowed from this facility into the hospital there, you have Publix, Chase Bank, the parking lot is always full there. So some of that, if people are having people in, if you, like it was just stated, if you have multiple people renting one unit to be able to afford it, you're going to have more than 2 cars there. So that overflow will go across the street right where Chase Bank customers are as well, and they can easily just walk across the street. So I know that it depends on, the DOT had said in our last meeting that they did not want to put a light there until possibly somebody get killed. It's not going to be if, but when, because it's such a danger, even as it stands right now. So please consider that and consider the turnaround into our neighborhood right there, because people just don't follow the law, and it's already a mess right there. You know, even trying to come out of the neighborhood, if they're making a U-turn, they don't care that you're right there and you're sitting at the light. They're making the U-turn anyway. So it's just going to be a matter of time before somebody actually does lose their life there because of the excessive amount of traffic that we're going to see with this complex here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kenny Johnson of 1854 Ibis Bay Court, and my concerns are that Silver Star is already a drag strip. I mean, it's amazing, the way people drive. It doesn't matter if they're going east or west. And when you think about adding that many additional vehicles to this area, and like my wife was saying, having that one turnaround, I've already almost had a head-on accident just coming out of our neighborhood, making a right, with a car coming east on Silver Star, and that little turnaround right there, right in front of the Dollar General store, you know? And it's just a concern for me, and I'm sure my neighbors also. If you add that many more vehicles in this area, driving down Silver Star Road, which is already a drag strip, it's just like my wife said, it's not a matter of if, it's when. There's gonna be a head-on collision somewhere right in that area, somebody's gonna get killed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last chance. All right, sure, come on up.
Hi, my name is Andrea Simpson. I'm 1974 Ibis Bay Court. And while I'm not on that end to my neighbors' concerns, even with them saying that they're going to use that Ohio Shores side as that street, if that's the side where Publix is, that's condensed already with nothing there. The people with Publix, the subdivision behind it that has a gate, you are looking at an increased traffic area, an increased density of cars in an area that just doesn't support it. It may support commercial at the bottom, but with the number of people that can occupy 42 apartments, 46 apartments, 20 apartments, it is increasing our safety, their safety in a high-density area, and the children that walk to the school up the street. I walk my granddaughter to the daycare at Ocoee Oaks. I almost get hit sometimes waiting at the light when the hand is blinking for me to cross with people, this, as they said, the speed. So I just think that we are looking at a higher density in an area that just doesn't support it when it comes to traffic. And they may not be balconies, but there are windows on the back of that building. So if they are in their apartment, they are going to be looking down into either the backyard or into the home of the neighbors, because that's the back of their home. We got those sliding glass doors for a reason, because we want to be able to use our backyard. And with that happening, that's going to limit the access. And where he said there's going to be, where there's a wall, that portion, it's a wrought iron fence. It's not a red brick wall on our subdivision. It's a wrought iron fence. So unless they're putting up a different wall, there isn't one that exists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna close the public, before I do, I'm gonna give the applicant one more opportunity to say anything else, if you'd like. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary, one of the owners, partners with Rose. The reason
Full name
we-
and address, please.
Oh,
I'm
sorry, Naples, Florida.
Okay.
I commute back and forth. And
What street are you what's the address of your business? And your last name, please.
1015 San Marcos Boulevard, Naples, Florida. Name of the business is the Mixed Use
Your
Property
full
LLC.
name, you didn't give
Mary
your last name.
Ramos.
I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay. First of all, thank you for having us. The idea was to come in and develop this amazing apartments and commercial. We're still at the commercial side because we're trying to figure that one out as far as restaurants or whatever, and of course with the parking. We're working with the hospitals and everything because we know that a lot of people are looking for places to live, especially single families that are looking for apartments. They might be long residents, they might be short residents, we don't know. I know one of the biggest thing is, finding homes for them. I mean, these are working people that are nurses, doctors, police officers, and to serve everyone in the community.
And when originally purchasing the property, we definitely took into consideration, we have the developer of their homes here. He worked diligently with us in trying to find a use of the property that would fit the community and enhance Ocoee. He's been a consultant to us through this. He's been amazing. So Chip, if you'd like to talk about a few of the concerns as far as the trip study.
Good evening, Chip Bryan. I'm
1120 Willow Vista, Maitland, Florida. I am the master developer of Ocoee. You all probably remember seeing me in here previously, way back in 2018. Some of you were here when we did the subdivision that these folks live in. We didn't build those homes, just for clarification. That was K. Hovnanian Homes. We just did the subdivision. And then when we came through with the Everest last year. I just wanted to offer, I think the concerns of the residents are all certainly valid. One thing that we worked with Mike and his staff on extensively through this process was the cumulative impacts associated with the original commercial anticipated uses. And what I can tell you, we've analyzed the traffic. We looked at the signal warrant, as Mike mentioned earlier. That was not warranted. That's driven by DOT. It's out of our hands. The total traffic is significantly reduced from the original program that we had here. So when we came in back with the Firestone and the other commercial uses that could have occurred, the total trips could have been significantly higher than what we're actually looking at today. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you very much. We're going to close the public hearing now, bring it back up to the dais. I would imagine you guys are about to pepper Mike with questions, so we'll start at the end of the dais with Jason.
All right, I remember Ocoee Landings when it first came about, and we got the developer to make the last 7 homes one story, so they wouldn't be able to look from the second story down on the lake. That passed. And now we're trying to do the exact same thing. Now put a 3-story apartment complex looking down on this community. Also, I live fairly close to here, and I don't want to look across the lake at the only apartment complex that's in a 3-mile radius. The closest apartment to this is 80 Mims and Clark. This does not, in my opinion, fit the land use for that area, and I believe it should remain, commercial and retail. That's my opinion and what I'll vote for.
All right, Member Williams?
I think for me, it's the rate and timing. I think that it's a little off. I don't think that I am concerned. I do remember all of the issues when the subdivision came in. I still haven't quite decided which way I want to go, but I do have some concerns with the property and would prefer that it be commercial.
Member Ford?
I do. I agree with Member Martin on this one, because when the residential developer was here, we did ask them to put 1-story homes for that privacy issue. Now we have a 45-foot structure that's going to, again, do exactly what we were trying to avoid to begin with, and with a developer who's squeezing parking spaces to put this building on the site. Do you have a plan B? It's a great site. Is this your 100%? That's all you have?
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
We didn't squeeze anything. We kind of just wanted to give the most because we have.
No, you're squeezing parking spaces.
Yeah. We definitely try to maximize the.
Sorry, I apologize. We closed the public hearing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
If you have any other questions, you have to direct them to, let's just redirect it to staff for the.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think.
We'll reopen the public hearing.
Yeah, let's do that, because I guess to make it formal, so, because that was a question, so she did already answer that. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this one here because of the size, the height of the building, and I'm not quite sure that, and I do agree with the gentleman from Barry University that commercial is daytime density. Apartment is evening time and all-day density, so I do agree with that. So in a commercial structure, they are gone by 6 p.m. and the traffic does reduce, after that use. So, still not quite sure where I'm going with my vote yet, but however, those are my concerns I'm sharing with you guys as well for the structure.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing again.
Sarah, what? Kelly?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I guess the first question that I have, Mike, maybe you could answer, since we've closed the public hearing, is do we need to have any apartments on the first floor? And I guess what I'm looking at is really, we'd like to get some better commercial in here. And I could see a restaurant coming in if maybe we could get rid of the first floor apartments and maybe we'd have more space where we could actually do that. I'm not sure what that does in the way of parking, but that might free things up for a restaurant or something else to come in there. And also, I know tonight I get to actually play alternate, so I'm not going to get to vote here. But I do have a concern with literally the only three-story apartment building where everything else around it is one-story residential. I really think that that's not what you want in this area. I think whether it's one-story commercial, one-story residential, that's fine, but I think when you start building up, to somebody's point before, it's going to be an eyesore because everything else is low except for this one building, one apartment building in the middle of it all. So I would like to see this revisited, to be honest with you, more as a commercial. And again, if you're not going to do that, is there a possibility of getting rid of the first floor apartments to actually give us room for a legitimate restaurant in there?
Very fair comment. As part of the evaluation of the comprehensive plan and land development code, I looked, this specific area is not it doesn't have an overlay on top of it, any specific requirements for architecture type, and we were unable to evaluate residential uses. I could not say you can't do the workforce housing, low-income housing. We cannot be a proponent of that unless it was a specific public-private partnership, which this is not. So with those factors, I'm limited, and I can just say I agree it's not, it's not in downtown core of our downtown master plan. It is out, and it is, but it does front an arterial road. This is something you've seen in other places that are outside of Orlando's downtown core, but it does front an arterial road, and it is in a commercial section, and it does create a transect for zoning. You have those zoning land uses that go from the core at the intersection of Clark and Silver Star heading east till you get to the more traditional residential. Then as you even get east of that, you get some of the larger lots that are out there. But there's really nothing for me to pin to say, and that's the purpose of this citizen board. You can say, look, we just don't feel it's right. I don't get to put my feelings in my criteria as a regulator, so thank you for that.
All right. Anything else, Joe?
Just about, I guess the only other comment, and I really don't know if there's a comment on it, though, is I would think that we may want to relook at the first floor apartments and see if we could do something that make that more commercial to give us more opportunity to have a restaurant or a
Yes.
larger commercial establishment in there.
All right, my turn. Yay. I can't remember, how tall is Mosaic, or the, whatever that place is next door? Is it single story? The, Everest.
Everest? Yeah, it's a single story, it's not a multi-floor hospital, yes.
My if I
I don't
can
know the
remember.
roof height of it. Okay.
It's a 35
Made
foot.
to the, yes, to the,
What's the height on this one, 45, somewhere in there?
at the midpoint between the eave and the, yes, it's just about 35, 37.
Didn't we at one point do a preliminary approval for another project down the road away on that cul-de-sac for another sort of assisted living facility.
Yes.
Is that a multi-story property?
No, it's single.
Okay.
I don't know the roof height, but it's not a multi-level.
Mm-hmm.
The only multi-level we have would be, in the area, would be on 50 at the Ocoee Health Central
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, this use
that we've reviewed.
is happening a lot more everywhere else. I mean, we look at Winter Garden, and Winter Garden is peppered with these uses right on Plant Street. And I do, again, I want to be as clear as possible. We need a restaurant in that area, but we need a restaurant that fits in that mixed use, because this is a good use. But couple things I would like to see, and I know we can't make anybody do it, but I would like a recommendation that if this were to go through, we would like to see a 12-foot brick wall go on the back.
I have that. I mean, I want to say, I have a showing. This is the parcel, and that brick wall does go all the way along the perimeter.
That's an 8-foot, right? Is that a 6?
6 foot. I'm sorry, what size wall did you say?
At least 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there is
Minimum.
a 6 foot wall, but okay. I got
Minimum
you.
12 foot.
Okay.
More buffer, right?
Gotcha.
But I mean, that's probably my only concerns, of course, is I need more retail, I need more restaurants, I need more buffer between this and the other neighborhood. But I think this use would probably do really well next to the mall there on Clark Road, where like Sears Auto Repair is. That would be a phenomenal spot for this place. But other than that, that's all I have. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff?
I'll just reiterate, the land use is not apartments in this area. It's all residential, it's all retail, and this was also zoned for commercial, which fits. Throwing an apartment complex here is just, it does not fit the aesthetics or even the area, just the only apartment, complex.
Well, I would say, what's the difference in that and the ones we've approved over off of Winter Garden Road? They're on an arterial road, they're 3-story, they're
Because where they
right
were
where
located
residential
was, you
is.
had apartments within like a half a mile or a quarter mile, and then they were also lumped in with high density.
There's high density there right now.
I know, but not that area, there's not. There are no apartments where this is. It would be the only apartment complex within.
I mean, it's
however-
next to a shopping center that's open till 11 o'clock at night.
Correct, but it's not apartments. It doesn't fit the land use and the aesthetics of the area. There are no apartments there, not anywhere near there.
There's a
You
lot
have
of
to-
townhomes, though. There's
No,
a lot
there's
of
not.
two streets away, there's, by the fire station, there's townhomes.
Yes, 80 mims, that's more than 2, 3 streets.
It's an arterial road.
It's more than 2, 3 streets away.
Okay.
It's down Clark and 80 mims is where all that is, by the fire station.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, with respect, as the applicant, could we?
Nope, sorry, we closed the public hearing, I apologize. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff? Okay, so at this point then, I'll entertain a motion for recommendation, either approval or denial from anybody.
I'll make a motion to recommend denial of the preliminary final large-scale site plan, project number RZ.
Yeah, we're just working on the RZ right now.
Yes, RZ 220741.
Okay, we have a recommendation for denial. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a recommendation for denial and a second. We're gonna go ahead and give some comments on this. Does anybody else want to make any comments about this at all?
I'm a huge fan of mixed-use developments. It's just not the location for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a big mixed-use guy too, and I think this is a good use. I think it needs to be made some changes and tweaks. I'd like to see it come back with a little less units in it and a little more retail, even somewhere where an anchor restaurant can go in it. Mixed use would be great there. I mean, there's other places in the city where we're trying to do this. And, and the traffic thing, the commercial, if it was straight commercial, it would still have way more trips to it than what this residential does. So, but that's it. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, sir.
I wanted to comment, I think some of the issues, the parking are brought up, as I said, I think just trying too hard to fit it in there. I like the mixed use. I like, at the last meeting, we saw some mixed-use two-story apartments that looked more like townhomes, had a little softer feel, looked more like the residential area around. And if there was something like that, I would support it, but I can't support this one.
All right, let's vote. All right, all votes are in.
Wait, y'all messed up the question. Y'all messed up? It
No,
was denial.
I voted against denying it.
Oh,
I
I
misvoted.
did, I did,
We gotta read the
Sorry.
Yeah.
Screwed
they-
up.
All right,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Thank you for catching
This
that.
is an easy fix. Yeah, so I need you to repeat your motion, please, Chairman Mellon, or Member Mellon, repeat your motion, please.
I recommend denial
Correct.
of project number RZ 220741.
Okay, so we have a recommendation of a denial. We had a second by Member Forges for denial. Okay. Madam Clerk, can you please take a poll vote, please? No.
So
Yes.
you want to state a yes vote is to no on the
Is
project.
a denial, that's
A no
correct.
vote is a yes on the project.
That's correct.
That's what you want to clarify.
No, we're going to do a roll call vote.
This is for denial.
For denial.
Chair Lumnick,
I'm saying no to denying it.
Vice Chair Kennedy,
Yes to denial.
Member Mellon,
Yes to denial.
Member Williams,
Yes.
Member Forges.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a pass for denial.
That is a pass for denial.
4-1.
At this time. I hope y'all come back with some different things. Wait, we have one, well, doesn't that fail automatically?
No, they were
since the
both kind of
rezoning?
large.
Scale site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just denied this one, so.
Does the large-scale site plan fail automatically because the rezoning fails, or should we vote on it too? Excuse me, everybody, we still have a meeting going on, please. Thank you.
I would think it's there's no need to vote because you voted no on you recommended no on the project, so
Right.
there's no. Yes.
You good? Okay.
It's like if it was a land use amendment. If you voted no on the land use, but then voted yes on the zoning,
Right.
you created so it's.
Okay.
Nobody's going to vote to approve the site plan.
Right. All right, so we are done with all business. We're going to go to the miscellaneous project status report.
Have you eaten at Sonny's?
You dang right I did, first
okay,
day.
so you're not going to ask me when it's going to open. All right.
It opened last Thursday, and it's
Yes.
wonderful.
Okay. We finalized the Sunnies. We are finalizing the Aria Senior Apartments on Roberson Road. And we are coming to a final.
Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, please, exit quietly. Thank you. Sorry, Mike.
So we're finalizing some sites. We have some new sites going through the process, and we'll just keep going. We got a lot of construction out there. The Ocoee Village Center has beefed up their team to get it finished. And Ocoee Apopka Road, you're going to see a lot of several developments come back on in that area. So things are looking good.
I have a couple questions, if you don't mind, I
Yeah,
see
yes.
on social media.
Okay.
So there was a lot of comments the other day. Of course, we know what's going on at the Ocoee Village with the road closure. Did they get the underwater,
No,
get the
they
sewer
haven't
done?
started, they have not started that construction, but they put a new team of principals together to get all of that in order.
Okay.
And so we have been working with them. Initially, they'll put some pipes under, and then it'll be very structured on how they will work on that roundabout and keep traffic going.
You're not an engineer, but what do you think is a good timeline to start that roundabout, right? How long do you think it'll take now to get that underground done, now that we have some good principles on?
They should be out there Monday of next week, and it should take them until Thursday to get that work done. And then
Great.
they'll close down part of it.
And then they'll start the roundabout shortly after?
Yeah, then they'll start on the north side and keep the lanes open and work it that way.
Great. I don't know, there wasn't a lot of people that were here from this board, and since you have TV access, you may not be prepared for this, but can you talk about the issue that came up in the last city council meeting about the widening of the turnpike and how it's affected the two projects that are
Yeah, so as part of the turnpike widening, they are looking for the section between the 408 and the 429 to go to 18 lanes. That includes 4 dedicated lanes on the north and south side that will strictly take you from the 408 to the 429. So the turnpike is looking to add 4 dedicated lanes to get you from the 408 Central Florida Expressway Road to the 429 Central Florida Expressway Road. And to do that, they need 100-foot under this preferred. Now, they've kind of backed off and said they're evaluating, but up until last week, their preferred plan had the 4 lanes on the north and south. What that would have meant is from between the 408 and the 429 on the north side, they would have needed an additional 100 feet of right-of-way. When you take into account building setbacks to the turnpike of 75 feet, it would have been a 175-foot hit. It would have, and plus they need stormwater. It's what they were looking at, what they've mentioned, what they told staff, is it would be a complete taking of the Lake Lily Alibi apartment complex. Wow. And it would stop the Regency apartment complex. Now, this has very large implications. Because not only is those lands in our community redevelopment agency, it would take a lot of land away off the tax books. It would also not only stop those projects, but it would stop all the ancillary economic benefit of those 1,000 units, those thousands of people living near 50, shopping, and all of that. And so it was really a big economic hit to the city. We've put a full course press on them to come up with a different alternative, and it may be working at this point. And so we're working with, and they've known all along these projects were going forward. The Alibi has poured all of their slabs. They're going vertical on their buildings, and that's all they can do. So, but they did kind of each meet with DOT and Turnpike and come up with, and we're told that it's not funded and they are looking at alternatives, so both projects are moving forward.
Yeah, that was like a $50 million impact or $70 million impact?
Oh, well, it's almost to 100 when you take the amount of years, because in our CRA, the property values are set for what the general funds of Ocoee and Orange County get from the 2006 values. Any increment above that goes back into the CRA. The CRA is a 30-year with an option for another additional 10. It was created in 2006, so we still have some good life to that CRA, and those monies would not be coming in. And so you've got to also look at the county's increment that would come to us during the next 25, 26, 24 years. So
Great. Have you seen, we got any more movement on the parking garages for City Center?
A movement in the sense that someone was out there attaining to the fence, and we received email today asking for some information on about the project that they received for the development and economic incentives and some of the development agreements regarding to funding.
Yeah.
That's the latest.
Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions for Mike? All right. Is there another thing, sorry, somebody asked?
Open house,
Yes.
Thursday, September 8th at 5 o'clock, 5:30 to 8.
Yes, that's going to be awesome. Please
Here,
come.
at the new City Hall, because it's opening of
Going
City
to have
Hall.
some hot dogs or something
I don't
like
know.
that? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there'll be something. I'm sure there'll be some refreshments.
Make sure you have the doors unlocked.
The property behind, adjacent to Texas Roadhouse, is that,
The Heartland Dental's breaking, we have pre-construction meeting with them, or they already had it, I forget.
is that a one user?
One user, there'll be another lot next to it that's available.
Cool. All right, if nobody else has any other questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second? Anybody? All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.